Just an hour before my sister-in-law's wedding, Sarah, went into labor. The pain was sudden and overwhelming, and I knew I needed to get to the hospital immediately. But before I could do anything, my mother-in-law, Rachel, snatched my phone, locked me in the bathroom, and coldly told me to hold off for a while, so I wouldn't steal the spotlight from her daughter's special day. I was in agony, trapped, helpless, and terrified. The pain blurred everything around me, and the next thing I knew, I was waking up in a hospital bed, disoriented and weak. Rachel stood beside me, pleading desperately for me not to press charges, but the moment my husband, Rick, spoke, her face went completely pale. He announced that we had actually welcomed our daughter Lily 2 weeks ago. She is our first child, and we are overjoyed to finally have her in our lives. Life since then has been a whirlwind. Becoming parents has been a challenging transition, and even though we're trying our best, the adjustment hasn't been easy. What makes it even harder is that we're doing it alone, because of what happened the day Lily was born. That day still haunts me. No matter how much I try to focus on the happiness Lily brings, I can't shake the paralyzing fear I felt in the bathroom, the overwhelming helplessness of being trapped while my body worked against me. If Rick hadn't come when he did, I don't think I would have survived. And yet, despite everything, a small part of me wonders if we should be softer with Rachel and the rest of the family. Lily is the first grandchild, and family is important. But my emotions are all over the place, clouded by postpartum exhaustion, lingering trauma, and the demands of new motherhood. That's why I'm here. I need an outside perspective. Rick has 2 younger sisters, Anna and Emma. Anna is 28, and Emma is 24. My relationship with them has always been neutral. We get along fine, but we're not particularly close. We all have busy lives, and Emma doesn't even live in the same city. Despite that, we still make an effort to stay in touch through texts or the occasional phone call. But Rachel, my mother-in-law, is an entirely different story. If my relationship with Anna and Emma is distant but peaceful, my relationship with Rachel has always been complicated. She is the definition of a control freak, someone who needs everything to go exactly as she envisions it. Her children, Rick, Anna, and Emma, have always done their best to accommodate her, partly out of love and partly because it's just easier that way. After all, she raised them on her own after their father abandoned them, and they try to make her life as easy as possible. But when Rachel doesn't get her way, she doesn't just express disappointment, she reacts. Sometimes it's passive-aggressive sulking, other times it's harsh disapproval, and if she's truly upset, she will have a full-blown meltdown complete with tears and tantrums. I've learned to deal with her by keeping my distance. Rick understands this and never forces me to engage more than I want to. At the same time, I know she's still his mother, and despite everything, he will always have a certain level of loyalty to her. That's why we've had an unspoken agreement. I stay out of her way, and she doesn't interfere in my life. It worked. Until the day I gave birth. Now, I don't know what to do. What Rachel did wasn't just cruel, it was dangerous. She put my life, and my daughter's, at risk, all for the sake of controlling a situation that had nothing to do with her. And yet, family is family. A part of me wonders if I should try to move past it for the sake of keeping things civil, but another part, the part that still remembers the sheer terror of that day, feels like forgiving her is impossible. I feel lost, and I don't know what the right decision is. What would you do? However, things got out of control a few days ago, and it was all because of her. Now, I don't think anyone can ever forgive her. On the day Lily was born, Anna was getting married. It was a lovely ceremony, and her husband Jonah, male 30, is actually Rick's friend. He proposed to her around a year ago, and Anna had asked me to be a bridesmaid, and I had accepted. However, when Rick and I found out I was pregnant, I had to request her to ask someone else because I knew I wouldn't be able to manage it. This was almost 6 months after the proposal, so only 6 months before the wedding. I was 3 months pregnant by then. I had assumed I would get backlash from her for backing out halfway, but I knew I had to prioritize. I was extremely nervous and jittery before telling her. I feared our relationship would be strained forever, but to my relief and surprise, none of that happened. Anna was overjoyed when I told her. She actually forgot about her wedding for a while. When I told her I wouldn't be available for duties, her response was, "Obviously, I'll be taking care of you." She even considered shifting the wedding because she didn't want me to miss it, which I would have. Lily had been born then. That ultimately didn't happen for a lot of reasons, and honestly, she shouldn't have done it anyway. It was a close call in the end, but she supported me throughout. Emma became the maid of honor, and I knew the 2 sisters were busy preparing for the wedding, so I didn't bother them much during the pregnancy, which was harrowing for me. Still, both stayed in touch as much as possible and came over and supported me a lot. I feel a little guilty for not supporting Anna on the most important day of her life, yet she supported me the whole time. The only person who was a little pissy about the whole thing was my mother-in-law Rachel. I think she was annoyed I couldn't be the maid of honor anymore, which caused some disruption in the wedding preparations. That seemed like the only logical explanation, and I got where she was coming from. But the hostility, for lack of a better word, continued even after Anna was okay with the pregnancy and my not being maid of honor. The bride wasn't mad in the slightest, but Rachel somehow started antagonizing me, Sarah, from that point on. It was weird, but I thought maybe I was on edge because of the hormones, and she was on edge because of the wedding, and all this was just creating false narratives in my head. I ignored her as best as I could, and things were mostly fine. Things got out of control, literally and figuratively, during the wedding. It was 2 weeks ago, and I was pregnant out of my mind. My feet were swollen, my belly was huge, and I felt like I would pass out, but I still wanted to attend the wedding because Anna wanted me there. I had asked her beforehand if she wanted me there because I wanted it to be her day. I told her the presence of a heavily pregnant woman might take the attention away from her, and I didn't want that. Wedding days are for the bride and groom, and I would hate to be the one to take away from that. When I told Anna this, she was actually offended and hurt. She said she couldn't believe I'd fill my head with this useless crap and not attend her wedding. She said she didn't care about attention or limelight, all she wanted was her family there to support her on her wedding day. She said I had to come and not worry about drama. I knew she meant it, she's not the type to mince words. If she hadn't wanted me there, she would have been upfront about it, but she did, and she said so emphatically, and I believed it was my duty to be there for her. So, even though I was physically uncomfortable, I knew I had to be there for her on her wedding day. I won't lie, there were murmurs everywhere. People were whispering, but I did my best to tune them out because the only thing that mattered to me at that moment was that Anna was happy I was there. Rachel, however, barely interacted with me, though she made sure to glare at me the entire time. I was too uncomfortable to care. I didn't have the energy to deal with her passive-aggressive behavior or try to understand what was going through her head, so I let her be. She could glare all she wanted, I wasn't going to react. And then, the incident happened. The one that left not just me but everyone around us in shock and absolute terror. I had been feeling a little uneasy just before the ceremony started. By then, I had already seen Anna, and everything seemed fine, but my body felt off. I decided to step away, go upstairs, take a moment, and hopefully feel better before returning. I barely noticed Rachel following me. I was sweaty and lightheaded, so I headed to the bathroom, thinking I just needed a moment to cool down. And then, my water broke. It wasn't just a trickle, it was a flood. My heart pounded, panic set in, and I could barely process what was happening. As much as I love my daughter, she had picked the absolute worst time to make her entrance into the world. My mind went blank, and for a moment, all I could focus on was the sheer terror coursing through me. But then I saw Rachel standing there. Relief washed over me. I crouched over in pain, gasping, and I told her to take my phone and call Rick immediately. We needed to get to the hospital now. Rachel rushed to me, helped me sit on the bathroom floor, and took my phone. And then she flipped. She stared at my phone and then at me, her expression darkening as she coldly announced that she would make sure Rick came after the ceremony was over, because she wasn't going to let me steal Anna's spotlight. I blinked, trying to process what she had just said. "Are you insane?" I gasped, clutching my belly as another contraction hit. "There's no way I can hold off for an hour." I reached for my phone, but she pulled it away. Then, before I could react, she turned, stepped out of the bathroom, and locked the door behind her, with me inside. And just like that, I was alone. No phone, no husband, no help. My daughter was on her way, and I was trapped. I don't know how I didn't have a full-blown panic attack. Maybe it was the sheer desperation, maybe it was adrenaline, but I somehow forced myself to get up and make my way to the door. I started banging on it, screaming at the top of my lungs. No one heard me. The bathrooms were on the first floor, far from the main hall, and by then, everyone was already seated for the wedding. I screamed until my throat was raw, my voice fading into nothing. I banged on the door until my hands hurt, but no one came. And that's when I truly believed I was going to die. I could feel my strength slipping away. I was drenched in sweat, my body trembling from exhaustion, my breath coming in shallow gasps. I was going to die here, alone, and my baby was going to die with me. That's the last thing I remember. When I woke up, I was in the hospital. The room was quiet except for the sound of soft sobbing. I turned my head and saw Rick sitting beside me, his face buried in his hands. He was crying. For a split second, I thought the worst. Everything came rushing back. Rachel locking me in the bathroom, my desperate cries for help, the sheer terror of being trapped while in labor. My heart stopped. I couldn't breathe. "Where's Lily?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. Rick looked up, his face a mixture of relief and devastation. The second he saw I was awake, he let out a shaky breath, grabbed my hands, and broke down completely in my arms. I didn't know what to think. My stomach dropped, fear consuming me all over again. And then, the nurse walked in, and in her arms was my daughter. I exhaled sharply, my entire body going weak with relief. I wanted to slap Rick for making me think the worst, but before I could, he shook his head. "I wasn't messing with you," he whispered, his voice cracking. "I thought I lost you. When I found you, you were unconscious." I didn't have the energy to process what that meant. I only knew one thing. I was holding Lily in my arms for the first time, and I would never forget that feeling. Nothing in this world could ever top that moment. Rick didn't give me the details right away, and honestly, I was grateful. I wasn't ready to deal with it. But as I held Lily, I faintly heard arguing outside. Voices rising. Tension in the air. I turned to Rick. "What's going on?" His expression darkened. "My mother. She's outside. She wants to come in and see her granddaughter." Everything inside me went ice cold. I looked at him, my voice steadier than I expected. "She locked me in that bathroom, Rick. She left me there to die. She put our daughter in danger for absolutely no reason." "I know," he said. "She's never coming near my child. Ever. To me, she's dead." Rick nodded, his jaw tightening. "She's dead to me too." I stared at him, trying to process his words. And then, he added, "I'm pressing charges. Life endangerment. I don't care if she broke down and confessed everything, she doesn't get to come back from this. She's going to pay for what she did." For the first time since that nightmare, I finally felt safe. When I heard him say that, I felt a weight lifted off my shoulders. I know he loves his mother. All three of them do, but after the stunt she pulled, which could have cost me and my daughter, Lily, our lives, I was in no mood to forgive her. If Rick had chosen her over me, our marriage would have been over. There would be no coming back from that, and somewhere deep down, I anticipated that he might choose his mother because despite everything, she had worked very hard to raise them. Maybe I wasn't expecting him to stand up for me the way he did, but I'm not complaining at all. If anything, it has made me love him more, if that's even possible. I asked him how the wedding went, and he said it went fine. Emma and Anna were waiting for him to call so they could visit us. I asked if Anna was mad, and he laughed, saying I didn't have to worry about Anna at all. She's been beaming with pride and joy, claiming that her complete family was at the wedding and that Lily's birth was the best gift she could have received. I had tears in my eyes when he told me that, and I told him to call them immediately. Within a few minutes, Anna, Emma, and Jonah were at the hospital with me. The best part? Anna and Jonah were still in their wedding clothes, and Anna said there was no way she was going to pass up the chance to take a wedding picture with her niece, Lily. I started bawling full on, and it was such a heartwarming moment. After the picture, I apologized to Anna for ruining her day. She hugged me and said I was looking at it all wrong. I had made her day. I told her about mother-in-law Rachel's behavior ever since we announced the pregnancy, and Anna said the only thing I did wrong was not telling them sooner. Maybe they could have put a stop to her drama. I told her I didn't want to cause trouble, and Emma chimed in, saying any amount of trouble was fine as long as I was safe. I have tears in my eyes even typing this because that's when I knew they loved me like family. I wasn't just Rick's wife to them. I was family. Anna is one of the best women I know. She's so secure, so happy. No wonder she is where she is today. I really don't know how Rachel is so different from her children. It's like they saw her and realized that's not what they wanted to become. It's weird, but I don't care. It was beautiful. Mother-in-law, Rachel, was still outside, apparently, and Anna had told her on her way in that she would make sure Rick and I pressed charges. Mother-in-law, Rachel, wanted to come in and meet Lily, but I didn't want her anywhere near me. Anna said we needed to keep ourselves safe from her. Anna apologized to me, feeling she hadn't addressed her mother's overprotective instincts or made it clear enough that she had no problem with my pregnancy. She said that if she had, maybe the incident could have been avoided. I told her she had made me feel safe, and there was no way she was at fault. All the while, Rick was outside talking to mother-in-law Rachel. When I was discharged from the hospital and finally brought Lily home a few days later, Rick sat me down and told me everything about his conversation with Rachel. He had made it crystal clear, he was pressing charges, and nothing she said or did would change that. She could cry, beg, or throw a fit, but it wouldn't make a difference. She had forfeited any right to be in Lily's life the moment she locked me in that bathroom. As far as we were concerned, she was not a grandmother. She had chosen to endanger both my life and our unborn child's life over an imagined slight that wasn't even hers to be upset about. And then, he dropped another bombshell. Rachel had been living off the financial support he and Emma provided for years, and from now on, those payments would be drastically reduced. That was when she finally broke down, sobbing that she had sacrificed her entire life for her children and didn't deserve to be treated this way. But Rick didn't waver. He told her that while he acknowledged and appreciated everything she had done for them growing up, that didn't give her the right to control their lives. She had crossed a line so massive that there was no coming back from it. He admitted that for years, he had tried to rationalize her behavior, making excuses or ignoring it, but that was over. This wasn't just another one of her tantrums. This was criminal. Rachel, still trying to defend herself, claimed that as a mother, she understood that Anna hadn't wanted me to steal the spotlight at her wedding, but the moment Anna overheard her, she ripped into her. That was it. Rachel had lost everyone. We proceeded with the case, though I refused to involve myself. I had a newborn to care for and couldn't be bothered with her drama. Rick handled everything. No one in the family spoke to Rachel anymore. Anna completely cut her off. Emma only spoke to her when absolutely necessary. And as for Rick and me, we were entirely no contact. I don't think Rachel ever saw this coming. Maybe, in some twisted way, she thought she was protecting Anna. Not that I forgive her, not in the slightest, but a small part of me still felt bad because everything she did backfired spectacularly, leaving her with nothing. I wondered if they should at least talk to her because cutting someone off completely, no matter how awful they've been, felt wrong. But I knew if I even suggested it to Rick, he would lose it. He was still furious and refused to even look at her. I never thought things would end up this way, but here we were. I hadn't updated in a while, mostly because I had been a little busy, keeping a newborn alive. The good news? Lily was turning 8 weeks old in a few days, and we were all so excited. Anna and her husband Jonah had been incredible, helping out with everything, and Emma, despite being back at work, called almost every day. Lily was the light of everyone's lives, and our group chat was filled with pictures and videos of her. As for Rachel, no contact. At all. I convinced Rick not to press charges. We had too much on our plate, and honestly, dragging this through the legal system wouldn't really serve any purpose. Rick fought me on it, reluctant to let her go unpunished, but eventually, he agreed. Neither of us had the mental energy for it. When we told Rachel last week, she appeared grateful. I say appeared because, as it turned out, she was just waiting to show her true colors again. Because last week, at 1 a.m., we woke up to the sound of loud frantic banging on our front door. At first, I thought it was a break-in. My heart nearly stopped. Without thinking, I grabbed Lily and hid, while Rick went to check what was happening. I could hear shouting, but I didn't dare move. I just held Lily close, praying she wouldn't wake up. And then, I heard Rick yelling back. It was Rachel. Rick told me later that she had gone completely unhinged. She was screaming at the top of her lungs, demanding to see Lily, shouting that we couldn't keep her away. She even tried to force her way inside. Rick physically blocked the door, telling her if she didn't leave immediately, he would call the police. That was the only thing that made her back off. So, yeah, any hope of reconciliation is officially dead. When Rachel showed up at our house in the middle of the night, pounding on the door and trying to force her way in, we immediately alerted Anna and Emma. If something was seriously wrong with her, everyone needed to know. At first, we were genuinely concerned. Maybe she was having a breakdown or some kind of crisis. But as it turned out, our concern was completely misplaced. The next day, she sent us a disturbing text, starting with her usual melodramatic accusations, claiming we were being cruel for keeping her away from Lily and that we were punishing her when all she had done was be a loving mother. At first, I rolled my eyes, but as I kept reading, the messages became more unhinged. She rambled about how she had spent her whole life juggling one child's needs over another, and that's all she had done on Lily's birthday, conveniently forgetting that Lily wasn't even born at the time and that Anna had never had an issue with my pregnancy coinciding with her wedding. That part, I could still try to understand, but then her words took a terrifying turn. She admitted that when I first announced my pregnancy, she had hoped Anna would be furious, because that's what a normal woman would feel. And when she saw that no one was mad, that everyone was happy and excited, she didn't like it. She wanted us to be jealous, bitter, and competitive, and when that didn't happen, she resented it. She had been hoping for drama, for resentment, for fights, anything but unity. When she realized my due date was close to the wedding, she had hoped Anna would resent us, that my pregnancy would drive a wedge between us, But instead, we had all been celebrating together, and she hated that. What shattered me the most was when she admitted she felt disrespected that a baby who wasn't even born yet, had taken her place as the uniting factor for her children. She despised that Lily had become the center of attention, replacing the role she had always played as the glue holding her children together. She continued to ramble, still typing, but I had seen enough. I turned to Rick and told him to block her immediately. This woman wasn't just toxic, she was dangerous. I had a headache just reading her messages, and I could not wrap my head around the fact that a grown woman over 50 was competing with a 7-week-old baby. It was insane. I was done. Done trying to understand her, done making excuses, done justifying her behavior as some twisted form of motherly instinct. She could go to hell for all I cared. We forwarded the messages to Anna and Emma, and they were just as horrified as we were. Emma suggested Rachel might be having a manic episode and said she would fly down to have her evaluated. I agreed it was a good idea, but I wanted nothing to do with it. This wasn't just drama, this was genuinely disturbing, and I wanted to keep my distance. A few weeks later, we took the final step. Rick and I filed for a restraining order against Rachel. She hadn't tried anything else, but we weren't taking chances. Emma had followed through and taken her for a full psychiatric evaluation, hoping to find a medical explanation for her behavior. But the results were frustratingly simple. Rachel was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, but that was it. There was no underlying medical reason for her actions. No manic episode. No neurological disorder. Just pure, calculated hatefulness. That was the moment Emma was done. She had been willing to help if something was truly wrong, but now that she knew this was just who Rachel was, she cut her off completely. I couldn't blame her, I felt exactly the same way. For a brief moment, I had considered whether Rachel might earn back my sympathy if there had been a real mental health condition behind her actions, but now? Now that we knew she had done all of this completely aware of what she was doing? There was nothing to reconcile. That's why Rick and I took a restraining order. Lily's safety is our top priority, and Rachel has proven twice now that she is not safe. Worse, she harbors ill will toward Lily specifically, which means we have to be even more careful. There is no scenario where we ever allow her near our daughter. And with that, I think this is my final update. I hope I never have to speak about this woman again.